you have to know volleyball. I have to tell this. Every time that we had a homecoming or a get-together at my mother's place, we would always have a volleyball game going. And in the wintertime, a lot of times we'd have football going. But volleyball was always interesting, you know. It was boys and girls against, we would choose up sides. And my sister liked to play volleyball. And so that's how that came about. And so that was always a common thing at our place come party time. Kids would all go out and play volleyball. So, you know, it can be interesting, a family get-together time. This morning I want to talk to you about I see. I see. Beth has every once in a while tell me, take my glasses off, you know. But I can see better distance without them. But when it gets up close, like to reading the scripture or something, I have to put them on. So you sing songs out of the songbook, I have to put them on. Now I can see the stuff on the screen without them, so that means you got to take them off. So I haven't found a good place to carry these pair of reading glasses. I've tried my pocket, I've tried where they're at right now, and I've tried that string around my head, you know, and nothing seems to work. I may have to try the string around my head again. That's like tying a string around your finger, you know. So, you know, you got it. I forgot my hearing aids this morning. I have not got that problem solved of having my hearing aids with me when I need them. So, all things said, I see, I heard, I see, I heard. I heard a quote this week, and I've been thinking about that for quite some time, of what that quote really means. The saying was, you see what your mind wants you to see. Karen's saying that's true. So I want us to think about that for a minute. You see what your mind wants you to see. Because sometimes I know that I see things and I don't know if my mind is telling me what I want to see. So how about that? Do you see what you want to see? Does your mind tell you what you see is what you want to see? That's quite a thought to think about, isn't it? Did you know that there are 5 human senses in every one of our lives? And those 5 human senses are touch, sight, hearing, smell, and taste. Did I get them right? The 5 human senses. Did you know that the first one that probably everybody comes across is touch? Think about that a minute. And touch kind of rolls all of those in together. So when you touch something, does your mind let you see what you want to see in that touch? We greet everybody here in this church every Sunday. And that's touching, right? Handshake or a hug. I like hugs. I'm kind of perturbed at the COVID situation because it allowed a lot of us not to give hugs anymore. Now, what does a hug do? What does a touch do? When you touch your spouse, for instance, and I hope that a lot of us touch our spouse, right? I miss touching my spouse very much. That does two things, doesn't it? It tells them, first, I love you. Second, it tells them that we care. We have compassion for them. Right? Everybody say right.
Right.
I want to see if you're all here this morning. Right. Okay. So touch is the first thing, first senses that every one of us start out with. Think about a little baby, for instance. Have you ever watched a young baby, newborn? First thing they do is start moving those hands, don't they? And the first thing they do is touch mama's face. And that gives them a sense that they belong, right? It gives them a sense that, hey, this person loves me because they're taking care of me until I grow up and I become on my own. So there's an instance where the mind is allowing that touch of that little baby to know she's cared for or he's cared for. And you know, it's kind of that way with God, isn't it? God touches us every day. And we're not even aware of it. We don't even feel that touch, do we? Or that hug. But it's there. And so maybe the mind is trying to play a little trick on us here and there along the way. Well, there are a lot of other senses. And of course, sight was the one that I think this scripture says, you see what your mind wants you to see. Now, you know, we can take the Bible and we can read a passage of scripture. And that's another one of the senses. We can read a passage of scripture, but is our mind really letting us see what that scripture is telling us? Are we really being touched by it? We come to church, for instance, like this morning, and maybe we hear someone give a testimony of how they came in touch with the Lord this past week, or they had an experience in that line. They saw something, maybe. Sight again, you see. They saw something where someone had an experience with the Lord. And I was thinking of last Wednesday night when we watched the movie, the film of The Chosen here in this church. And let me say, if you're not joining in this sight of that film, you're missing out on something. How many of those here who have watched that movie would agree with that? Raise your hand. And it's worth coming and watching those films. But what I noticed in that film was that Jesus was always hugging his disciples. And last Wednesday night, the Roman centurion who was in charge realized that he had witnessed the healing of his son, even before he saw his son. And he knew that Jesus was responsible for that healing. And so what did he do? He gave Jesus a passionate hug. I call it passion because it was heart generated and heartfelt, because this man knew that Jesus healed his son even before he went home and saw that his son had been healed. And to hug the person that had done that for him, a Gentile, without Christ, yet had the faith to go to Jesus and say, I know you can heal my son just by saying the word. You don't have to come to my home, because you see, those two did not go to one another's home. Yes, that was a very impactful place. It showed the love of Christ, the faith of the centurion,